This is the 2022 Kia Stinger GT, and it's powered by either a 2.5-liter turbo or a 3.3-liter twin turbocharged engine. Steve here, Cars with Steve, and before we get started, I want to give Durham Kia a huge shout out and a thank you for giving me access to this vehicle to shoot the video for you today. Check down in the description below in order to find their contact details. Now on top of that, if you're looking at shopping online, not necessarily even just for the Kia Stinger, but for any Kia vehicle, check out their website. The link in the description below. They've got a pretty crazy 3D model where you can look for cars online, you can dive in deep, do a full 360. It's kind of neat what they've got going on. Find that description down below. Now on top of that, before we get started, I know that a lot of companies have been struggling during this pandemic, so I've hidden a gift card code somewhere inside of this video. If you're the first one to find it, contact me on Instagram and I'm going to give you a $20 gift card to anywhere. A local restaurant, gas station, whatever the case may be, whatever you need and whatever local business you'd like to support. But let's dive into it, have a little bit of fun and see what the 22 Stinger has to offer. Looking at some exterior styling, so beautiful look to this actual split spoke rim. I love the look of it. We've got a Michelin Total Performance tire as well. Looking at the tire size across all trim levels, it's going to be a 19-inch tire. Now we've also got some performance brakes inside of this thing. So across the entire lineup, we're looking at Brembo brakes. So 4-piston calipers, which means we've got improved braking performance. And that's one of the nice things. Like, yeah, this thing is all-wheel drive, but at the end of the day, when you go to brake, it's going to put a lot of focus and emphasis on the front end of the vehicle. So having that higher performance brakes means that you've got improved stopping performance as well. Now, looking along the front end of the vehicle, we've got a beautiful LED headlamp there. We've got LED headlamps, we've got LED tail lamps as well. We've got a nice splitter along the bottom, gives us a little bit more downforce as we're going a little bit faster into the top there where we've got those faux hood scoop. We do have an upgraded Kia logo for the 2022 model year as well, but overall the look and styling of this thing is fairly unique. Moving into the back end of the vehicle, so we've got a quad tip exhaust. That's going to be standard across the entire Stinger lineup. Great look when it comes down to it, and even better sound. We've got our Stinger logo along the side, as well as our GT badging along the side as well. Really well put together along the back. And then as I mentioned, we do have LED tail lamps there as well. So it does look very, very stunning. Taking a peek at some standard technology. So as you can see there, we've got the backup camera. We've got the reverse sensing system, so that beeping that we get as we start to back up. There is also the blind spot system. So lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, and there also is a lane keeping system. Now we also do have, you can just kind of make it out there, but we've got a camera along the front, on the side, I should say, the side view mirror, as well as a camera just in the front of the vehicle there. So that's great because we've got a full 360 view of the vehicle as we go. All right, taking a peek underneath the hood. So the Kia Stinger does have two available engine choices depending on whether you're in Canada or the US. In Canada, 3.3-liter twin turbo is the only option. It's going to push out 368 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. Now down in the States, you guys have the GT line, which still has the same 2.5-liter turbo from last year, and that's going to push out 300 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque. So plenty of power when it comes down to it. We've got a couple of strut braces along the top there for improved handling. Just along the very top, as you can see there, we can easily top up some fluids if we need to. We can easily check our oil, but beautiful layout along the top. Next up, taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle. So great look when it comes down to it. Similar look as what we saw in the 2021 model year. Along the very top, we've got our lock button, our unlock button, our trunk release, our horn or panic alarm button, and then we also have an emergency access key if we ever need to get access to the vehicle in case our fob has died. Now on top of that, we also do have a remote start. So in order to be able to remote start the vehicle, we just have to make sure we press the lock button so the car is locked, and we're just going to hold the button there. There you go, as you can see, it's now remote started. In order to cancel the remote start, we're just going to press that circle button there again, and the remote start is now canceled. Now, in order to be able to get into the trunk of the vehicle, on the actual key fob, as you can see just along the top there, we can press this button, so press and hold in order to be able to open up. Now on top of that, we also do have another little latch. So just underneath inside of the A and the Kia logo, there's a button just underneath, so we can press that in order to be able to have that liftgate lift up. Let's have a peek inside. Now this is one of the things that's actually kind of shocking to me is how much space is actually inside of it. We've got this kind of like faux hatchback thing going on, which is kind of neat. We've got a privacy shade, which we can easily take that off if we need to. There's a couple clips along the top there for us to just kind of pull this thing off, but I love the look of this trunk. It's really, really nice. Let's get the cargo dimensions going up for you. So as you can see there, plenty of room when it comes down to it. Are you gonna have the same amount of room as an SUV? Not necessarily, but guys, at the end of the day, this is a sedan and it is an incredibly powerful sedan at that. Now, one of the nice things is that we've got a 40-60 split, so smaller on the driver's side, so we can fold each of those seats down if we need to. All right, now as we start to hop inside, so as I mentioned, so we do have the option of easily taking these clips off if we want to remove this. Moving inside, we've got a latch on the inside there. We've got a couple of tie downs along both sides and just underneath. So we're going to lift this first tray up, and that's going to show the actual jack. And then if we ever need to change the tire ourselves, and then we're just going to pull this next piece up in order to actually reveal the tire. So it is a mini spare tire. It's not a full-size spare, so just something to take into account there. When it comes down to filling up fuel inside of the Stinger, so just along our driver's side, you can see the little cutout there. We do need to press the button just on the side of the steering wheel in order to be able to open up the cover itself. Now, when it comes down to the actual fuel quality, this is one of the few Kia vehicles where you actually are required to put in a premium fuel. And that's minimum manufacturer's recommendation is a premium 91 octane. If you use the lower quality fuels, you might get that engine knocking because this is a performance vehicle. So I recommend at a minimum 91, ideally a 93 or a 94 octane if you've got the budget for it. Looking at second row spacing inside of the Stinger. So I'm 6 feet tall. I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall, and I still have plenty of knee room and plenty of foot room as well. Now up overhead, I've got about an inch or so of headspace. So it is actually kind of cool that you can fit 5 full-size adults inside of this thing. Might be a little bit tight in the back seat. We've got a little cutout in the middle there. So whoever's stuck in the middle is unfortunately gonna have to sit with their legs a little bit spread, but it's nice to know you do have the option of fitting 5 full-size adults inside of this vehicle. All right, taking a peek along the back. So as you can see there, we do have a few cup holders in the back, which is nice, just along that middle row. Moving forward, both on the passenger and the driver's seat, we've got cargo nets in the back if we need to store a few extra things. Moving to the front, we've got our basics for our fan control. We can also control what's going on with the temperature, so we can go between hot or cold from the back, which is great. Moving down a tiny little bit more, as you can see, we've got a few power points. So we've got a 12-volt port, as well as a traditional USB port in the back, and we've got a cover for each. Moving along the side, so as you can see there, we do have our window up and down button. We've got our heated seats, which is really, really nice. Now it is just gonna be for the outboard seats. So that left and right, the middle seat is not gonna be heated whatsoever. Moving forward again, we've got our handle, and then up above, we've got our holy crap handle, as well as a little hook. All right, taking a peek at the driver's handle there. So as you can see, we've got a little black button. We can use that in order to be able to either unlock or lock the doors as we start to hop inside. So a few things to point out there. Just along the very top, as you can see, we do have our seat memory buttons, so 2 individual profile settings there. Looking along the actual door itself, we do have the option of adjusting our side view mirrors. We can unlock and lock, and then we've got our basic window control buttons. As we start to move down, so we do have a tiny little bit of storage space along the driver's side door, same for the passenger. Moving to the inside, so a few things to point out there. Along the very top, or I should say the left side, we can either increase or decrease our cluster screen brightness. We've got our lane keeping system. We can turn that one on or off. We can pop open our fuel cap if we need to. And then we've also got our trunk release, so we can open and close from the inside as well. As we start to move down, move forward, as you can see, we've also got our hood latch. Right, adjusting the driver's seat in the Stinger is a very straightforward process. It's going to be power across the entire lineup. So along the left side, we've got a series of different toggles that are available. So the very front one is actually going to be for our leg rest. So we can move that leg rest up or down a tiny little bit, which is kind of neat. Moving down a little bit, we've got another little toggle. That's going to bring the seat forwards, backwards. We can go up and down with it. Moving back a tiny bit more, there's one for our backrest. The same thing, we can move that one forwards or backwards. And then next one back is going to be for our lumbar support. So we've got power lumbar. We can add that in a little bit if we need to. We can go left or right with it, and we can also go up and down. So you can really adjust it for your own personal preferences, which I think is an incredible feature. In order to be able to adjust the steering wheel, just along our left side, so you can see there's a little directional pad there. It's a telescopic wheel, so we can go in and out, up and down with it as well. Now, once we've got that perfect position for the steering wheel, for our seat and side view mirror, we're gonna press and hold either that 1 or 2 button along the driver's side door in order to set up your own personal profile. Now, one interesting thing about the Stinger, apparently it's got object detection for the actual window itself. So if we have the window down and we go to roll it up, apparently it shouldn't actually hit my hand. So what I'm gonna do, let's have my hand up. I'm gonna show you, other hand is here. And it went up and it hit my head and automatically went down. I was like, what is about to happen? That is so cool. All right, up we go again. Yeah, the second it touches my hand, it just goes right back down again. That is a really cool feature. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel. So this is going to be an in-depth look at the steering wheel as well as that UVO media screen, but let's get started. Starting off along the very top, we've got our voice command prompt. So that voice command prompt, that's going to give us the option of changing radio stations, songs if we want to. We can make phone calls and we can also navigate using our voice simply by pressing that button. So really, really nice. Looking at our mode, that's going to jump us between different medias. So we can go between AM, FM, Sirius XM, if your cell phone was connected, things like that. Down a bit more, we've got our audio. So let's actually do a quick audio test. Let's change stations first.
Please say a command.
97.7.
Now listening to FM 97.7.
Ah, so cool. All right, let's increase that volume. Not too shabby, tragically hip. Sounds pretty good. So it's a great sound system inside of this one. We can use this in order to change between our presets, or we can press and hold if we want to seek. So really, really great from that perspective. We can either answer or hang up on a phone call, and then we've also got a customizable button. So we can literally have this button set to whatever we want to. So we can change it for privacy mode, voice memos, reroute. It's essentially creating your own custom button on the steering wheel, which I think is a brilliant feature. So good job on Kia for adding that one in for the end user. Moving along to the other side, this is going to be what's going on with the actual cluster screen. So this first one changes us between all of our active pages there. So up and down. So as we go, let's actually go through page by page. So we've got our basic gauges there. Moving to the next page, we've got our drive info. So along the top, we've got our accumulated info, we've got since refueling, and a number of other things. Now, if we ever want to reset a value, we're just going to press this button into the middle, and that's going to bring us back to that default setting again. So it's going to reset everything for us. Again, we've got our compass. Moving forward, we've got our lane keeping, lane centering system, as well as our attention. So the attention gauge, what's going to happen is if we start to veer over too many times without signaling, it's going to let us know we should probably take a break. Moving down, we've got our lane keeping system, lane centering system. So we know the centering is on when we see that steering wheel show up, and that's the one that's going to keep us in our lane. As we move forward one more, we've got some basics. So we've got our tire pressure, we've got our digital speedometer as well. So lots of options there. Moving down a little bit more, so this is the one, as I mentioned, to turn on our lane centering system. And then we've also got our distance indicator. So how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? And that's going to be when we're using this actual lane keep, or when we're using the adaptive cruise control, I should say. And the adaptive cruise control, we're going to set that one up so that smart cruise. We turn the cruise control system on there, and then we go up or down to either set our speed or increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. Now the nice thing about that smart system, that smart cruise, what's going to happen is if we set it at a certain speed, let's say 100 kilometers an hour, if the vehicle in front of us slows down, yours is automatically going to brake as well. If they pick up speed or get out of the way, yours is going to pick up that set speed, whatever you had it set to previously. And the next one is going to be a distance indicator. So how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? So really, really nice. We've got a ton of different options there. Right now, as we start to move forward, so this is an 8-speed automatic transmission, and we do have paddle shifters. So we've got our minus and our plus button, so we can easily change out gears as we'd like to. So really, really great. It actually feels really nice, and it's kind of positioned perfectly right behind that wheel there. Moving off to the side, as you can see, we also do have our lamp selector, so we can figure out what's going on with our lamps. Honestly, the one I recommend keeping it on is just that auto setting. It's going to automatically flip me between the daytime or the nighttime running lamps. Along the right stick, we've got our basic for our window controls, or I should say for the windshield wiper control, pulling towards us for that front wiper as well. So very, very straightforward. Now, one thing you may not necessarily be able to make out, it's kind of bleeping and going crazy on us right there. It does have a heads-up display. I love cars with heads-up displays, and this one is so unobtrusive. I absolutely love it. Now, as we can see there, we can just kind of make it out, but we've got our speed. If our lane centering system was turned on there, it would also show up. Now, one of the interesting things about the actual blinkers, if we press the blinker there, look at that. Look at how cool this is. Well, let's hop in for a second there and get a little bit closer. We press to the side, and it lets us know what's going on with that side view mirror on the left and the right side. So it takes the idea behind a blind spot system to the next level. Because yeah, we do have a blind spot system that lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot, but having this show up is really, really cool because you can actually see your blind spot and see what's going on with vehicles that are beside you. So I love that fact. So Kia, good job on that feature. I wish more OEMs would adopt a feature like that as well. Next up, let's take a peek at this UVO media screen. So absolutely love the look of this thing. It's kind of neat. It's it's obviously touch screen, but it's got a really, really nice look to it. Now, one of the interesting parts, I'm signed in as a guest, but we've got the option of setting up individual profiles. So if you've got multiple people potentially driving this vehicle, you can set a profile up for each individual person, which I think is great, or we can just sign in as a guest. So we can navigate left and right as we go. As you can see on our basic home screen, our summary screen, we've got what's going on with the temperature, and we've got whatever station is currently playing. Moving off to the side, we've got factory navigation built in. So we can easily go between different addresses and things like that. Let's actually kind of play around and we'll go through everything as we go. So we've got our basic compass there. We can go through and we can actually look at what road we're on, and we can also start to navigate. So if we start just randomly typing in an address, let's start kind of typing here as we go, it auto completes. So that's a really, really neat feature. So if we just kind of start typing and let's go, all right, let's just randomly select an address. Boom, address randomly selected, and let's give it a second. Okay, map is loading up, here we go. So we can set it as a destination. So let's do that, we'll set it. And as of right now, you can see it's avoiding ferries and toll roads and a few other things, but we've got our route set up there very, very simply. We can start our guidance, we can add a waypoint, and we can also do our route avoidance. So if we want to avoid ferries, toll roads, things like that, we've got the flexibility to be able to do that. Moving back brings us back to the screen there again. If we start our guidance up,
Route guidance will start now.
route guidance has now started there, but one of the really cool things is, unfortunately, again, same thing, we can't really make it out inside of the screen, but we do have our navigation showing up in the heads-up display as well, which I think is absolutely brilliant. All right, now as we go, we look forward, actually let's look through the screen there. So as you can see inside of the cluster screen, it's also showing up there. So really, really nice. We've got a few different spots where that's actually going to show up. Now, in order to be able to cancel the route out, it's very straightforward. We can go pause route along the bottom there if we want to, and that's going to cancel out. We can resume it as well, and that's going to bring that route back for us again.
Start now.
Back to our menu, we've got our route, nearby point of interest icons, display off as well. So we look at the route, we can look at rerouting. We've got nearby point of interest, we can save it as a favorite as well. So tons of options and tons of flexibility when it comes down to it. Moving back into our home screen there, so we've got our map, we've got our basics for our navigation menu as well. So we can look at our places, point of interest icons, previously saved destinations, and a number of other things. And if you take a look along the side, we can cancel our active route there. So let's cancel the route that we've got going on. Route is now canceled. So really that simple. Moving back into the home screen again, we've also got, so back to our navigation menu, places, we can edit our route, we've got a number of options. We can set our home, our work address, a number of favorites as well. So if you have a ton of different routes that you tend to go to, you can set these things up as necessary. So really, really neat. We've got our phone. So clicking on our phone there, so as you can see, we've got hands-free calling as well as our Bluetooth audio. So we can select those. We can turn those ones on or off if we'd like to. Phone projection. This is where we're going to go to actually be able to set a phone up for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So it's very straightforward there, but why don't we go through and we'll actually select a phone. So we're going to go hands-free calling.
Turn Bluetooth on from your device in order to search.
There we
On
go.
your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
Okay, so what we're going to do on our phone is we're literally just waiting for that. So Kia Motors to show up, and we're just going to press, making sure that the numbers match up, which in this case they do. So we're going to pair on the phone, and there we go. So it's paired there. And it's asking, do I want to allow my favorites and contacts to sync? Yes, I want to allow that. And there we go. As you can see, we are now fully connected. So it really is that simple setting up a phone. We jump inside of my phone now. As you can see, we've got my contacts that are downloading. We can look at my other contacts. We can go through to the actual dial pad itself. We can look at my previously saved messages. We can activate the actual assistant. And then if we've got multiple devices selected, we can press that button in order to switch between our active devices as well. So tons of different options and lots of flexibility when it comes down to it. All right, so let's move back to the home screen again. And as you can see, phone is connected. If we go phone projection, so as you can see there, we can set up Android Auto and Apple CarPlay inside of the vehicle, and it's very straightforward. So in order to set up Apple CarPlay, we're just going to take our USB cable and plug it into any of the available USB ports. Boom, we are in. We're just going to take the opposite end of that cable, and we're just going to plug it into the phone. 3, 2, 1, and watch this. Okay, allow CarPlay while the phone is locked. Yep, I want to make sure I do that. And we're now connected. So CarPlay, some user information is going to be there, so we just have to hit next. And we want to activate Siri in the iPhone settings as well. So that means that we can use Siri inside of this vehicle as well, which is neat. So if we look and we've now got CarPlay, so we select CarPlay and we are connected. It really is that simple. Now, one of the nice things is, yes, we do have factory navigation, but if you prefer to use Apple Maps, Google Maps, Waze, things like that, we can use all of these things directly through this middle screen. We can also extend it out a little bit more if we want to. We can kind of go through the map itself. And we can also hide. And that's one of the cool things as well. So we're Apple CarPlay there. We jump inside, moving back. So we've got a ton of different options and a lot of flexibility there. Now, one of the nice things about the iPhone side of things is that on our phone, if we jump into our general settings, we go to CarPlay, we can look at the vehicle, and we can customize, which means we can customize the tray. Because let's say if you have a tendency, I don't know, maybe listen to podcasts a little bit more, and maybe you love your audiobooks on the road as well. So we can select what's going on with the actual organization. We can actually delete some things as well. Now, one of the nice things is that if we've done too much and we don't like what we've done with this, we just hit reset, reset home layout, and that's going to bring us back to our factory default screen instead. Now, this is kind of neat because we do have our full split screen there, but if you want this whole thing to be taken up directly by Apple CarPlay or Android Auto instead, all we're going to do is jump home. We can go to our setup. We're going to go device connections. We've got Apple CarPlay. So in order to be able to adjust some settings, what we have to do is just unplug first, which I think that's kind of a weird one. It would be nice if we can use this all the time, but here and over there, we're just going to disable split screen. And then from there, all we're going to do is just plug the phone back in. Here we go, and it's going to take a second in order to set CarPlay up again. CarPlay is apparently connected, so let's go. Oh, it helps if I go back to the right screen. Let's go back. Apple CarPlay stretched across. Look at how beautiful that looks. But we've got Maps, we've got Google Maps, we've got Waze and things like that. So if we jump inside of Waze for a second, all of a sudden it's stretched right across that whole screen. I love the look of this. So really, really fits nicely, and I think it looks incredibly sharp. Now, we do have the option of going through. So if we go to our general settings, we can jump into CarPlay, Kia Motors, and we can customize the tray. So if you have a tendency, I don't know, maybe you love listening to podcasts, you just drag that and drop it to the top. If you want to do that for, I don't know, audiobooks as well. So we've got a lot of flexibility when it comes down to it. We can also delete some things as well. Now, if you've played around with it too much, you don't like the layout, we're just going to do a reset layout, and that's going to bring us back to that factory default screen instead. So really, really great. And then just button press in order to get back into the screen. Now, in order to get back home to the Kia screen, we just press this little Kia button there, and that brings us back to this main screen again. We press CarPlay to jump back in, or we can go back to our setup and we go into our device connections, and then CarPlay is there, but same thing, we have to be disconnected for a second. We jump back into CarPlay, and now we can disable Apple CarPlay. So that's really, really nice because with Apple CarPlay disabled, we can now plug in to be able to charge our phone up, but we don't have to worry about CarPlay showing up there as well. So lots of flexibility when it comes down to it. And that's how you set up Apple CarPlay inside of this vehicle. Setting up an Android device is literally the exact same process. So on our phone, what we're going to do is just jump into Bluetooth first, and now we're going to go into device connections. So device connections, we've got our Bluetooth connections. So as you can see, we've got my iPhone there, so we can click on that if we want to, and we've got hands-free calling and Bluetooth. We can disable it if we want to, or we can just hit delete, and we can delete that in order to be able to delete the device. So really that simple. I'm actually not going to delete it for just a second. I want to show you why as we go. I want to add new device now, and same thing, we're going to go hands-free calling and Bluetooth. We want to make sure we set both of those up, and what we're going to do. So
Bluetooth on from your device in order to search.
That's what I was waiting for. That's what I was waiting for.
That matches vehicle name on the screen.
All right, so you're going to make sure that you've tuned Bluetooth on your cell phone, and we're just going to, it's doing a quick scan, and as you can see, Kia Motors has shown up. So we're just going to connect. Same idea, make sure the passcodes enter up, and they do, so we're going to hit OK. Here we go. Here we go. And we are now connected. I love how simple it is connecting phones to cars, like super, super simple. We jump back into our home screen again, and we'll get to that in just a second, but allow access contacts to our contacts. Yes, contacts, good. All right, now if we jump back into the phone again for a second. Oh, it wants my messages too. All right, here we go. Connect to messages, so we want to allow messages. We're gonna jump inside of the phone. All right, here we go. So tons of different options there. So same thing on the iPhone side of things. We've got our dial pad and a number of other things. Same thing on the iPhone side of things. We can press the voice command prompt on our steering wheel now in order to be able to make phone calls directly through that screen. So love that capability. And then very similar to the Apple side, we can set up Android Auto very, very simply, and it's literally the exact same process. We're gonna take our USB cable, plug it into that front port, opposite end of the cable. We're just gonna plug ourselves in, and watch this. All right, so Android Auto would like to pair, so we're going to hit pair. And connecting, and we are connected. So really that's simple. As you can see there, we've got my traffic settings, we've got the notification center, and we've also got the assistant. Moving to the inside, we've also got my podcast, phone, messages, and a number of other things. We can jump back to that Kia homepage as well. Now, very similar to what we saw on the Apple side, we can set this up so that it's stretched across the entire side. All we're gonna do is jump back home, I should say. And once we're back home, we're going to go to our setup. We're gonna go to our setup. And from the setup, we're going to go to device connections, Android Auto. Same thing, we have to be disconnected through Android Auto. So let's actually do that. I'll show you what that looks like. So we disconnect, click on Android Auto. We can disable split screen, or we can enable or disable Android Auto as necessary as well. So really, really simple in order to be able to set that up. So what we're going to do is just plug back in for a second because I want to show you a few things. So let's set back up, jump back to the home screen again. Perfect. And let's jump into Android Auto. All right, and we'll hop inside of this screen for a second, because very similar to the Apple side of things, we do have the flexibility to be able to connect and adjust some things through Android Auto. So all we're gonna do on our actual phone, we're just gonna swipe up and we're just gonna search for Android Auto. Okay, so we've got our Android Auto settings, and as you can see, we can see the car that we're currently connected to. We can customize our launcher, so very similar to what we did on the Apple side. So we can move these up and down in order to be able to adjust what's going on the screen, what's showing up and not showing up, etc. We've got our Google Dictation, we've got our Google Assistant, toggle weather on and off, and a number of other things. So we've got a little bit of flexibility, not quite as much on the Apple side, but still a ton of flexibility when it comes down to it. And same thing, we can just unplug the phone for a second, jump back into setup. And then when we go into our device connections, Android Auto, we can go for that full screen instead, or we can disable Android Auto completely if you still want to be able to charge the phone up while not using Android Auto. And it really is that simple, connecting a phone to the vehicle. All right, let's jump back. We'll get to the full setup in just a second, but let's go through a few other things. We do have the option of recording a voice memo, so I think it's kind of neat. It's really, really simple. I love the fact we've got our voice memo. We could use our phone, but having it on the vehicle is kind of cool as well. Moving into our climate, we do have some advanced climate control settings along the bottom, but we do have some other options there as well. So we've got our air conditioning, so we can see kind of what's going on with the system there, so tons of different flexibility there. We can activate upon the washer fluid use. We can auto dehumidify. We've got our ventilation, auto defog, and a number of other settings there as well. We've got a valet mode. So valet mode, we actually have to enable the UVO in order to be able to do that. But with valet mode, what's gonna happen is you can enter a number in order to be able to lock the screen out. So if you've got a valet driver, they can't flip through and look through different screens and things like that. We've got our HD radio data. We've got our basic radio as well. So hopping inside, so it's kind of neat. It's kind of like an old school radio setup, and we've got a series of presets along the bottom there. So this is actually kind of neat. I love that flexibility. And as we start to rotate, so we rotate the knob in order to see what's going on, this is actually kind of a neat setup and a neat setting. Now, in order to be able to save a spot, all we're gonna do is just save as a favorite, so we can save it, disable it, etc. We've got our HD radio there as well. So lots of flexibility when it comes down to it. Pressing back again. Ooh, actually, one thing to point out. Back into our radio. So as you can see along the side there, we can change between our active sources. So our AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. Moving back, we've also got our basic media. So media, we've got AM, FM, Sirius XM, USB. If we've got a USB stick with MP3s, we can play it through there. Our sounds of nature, we've got our AM, FM, as well as our Android Auto. So if we were connected through Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, our phone was connected, we would be able to use our phone's audio directly through this middle screen as well. Next up, we've got our media. We've got that sounds of nature, which we can dive into again, which is going to give us a few different sounds. So let's actually crank this for a second. And it's just like, it's like a white noise. That's literally what it is. You're driving around with a white noise. So this is actually a kind of a neat setting if you like more of that subtle noise as you're driving. Moving into our setup, this is where we get into some more advanced options. So we've got our vehicle settings. Vehicle, so we've got driver assistance, we've got our driving convenience. So let's jump into there for a second. We've got our highway driving assist as well as our auto speed change. We're going to look at that one once we actually start driving on the highway there, but we've got a lot of different options there. Our warning timer as we start to move forward, so with our driver assistance there. So it's going to let us know if we're getting a little bit too close in front of the vehicle in front of us. We've got the warning volume, our driver attention warning. So that's one that we can turn that one off as well. So if we start to depart a lane without signaling, we're gonna get a notification. After it hits too many notifications, we're gonna get a message letting us know we should probably take a break. Our forward sensing system, so if the vehicle senses a potential collision, it's actively gonna brake for us. We can have just an audible warning instead, or we can turn the entire system off, because I know some people, they find that system just drives them crazy, so you can turn it off if you want to. Lane safety, so that's the one that's going to recenter us and pull us back into our lane. We can have that full assistance. We can have just the warning, so an audible beep, or we can turn that system off. Blind spot system lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, so we can easily toggle that one on or off as well. We've got our safe warning, yes or no. Parking safety, let's click on that for a second. So parking safety, we've got our rear cross traffic alert. So as we start to back up, the vehicle is going to let us know if there's a potential collision because someone's coming to the left or the right hand side of us. So lots of different options there. Moving into our drive modes, so a series of different modes. We can create a custom mode if we want to. So we've got a few different steering modes and things like that. Moving back, we've also got a few different modes that we can select that are pre-done from the factory as well. So you've got some different options there. We've got our heads-up display, which we can enable or disable it if we want to. We've got our display control. So what's actually showing up on the display itself? So as you can see there, we can rotate what's going on there. We can move it up and down as well. So we've got a little bit of flexibility. We can adjust the brightness and then our content selection. So this is where we're going to go to show to be able to show what's going on with our heads-up display. Do we want our turn-by-turn directions, traffic signals, and a few other things? Moving into our cluster, same thing. We can actually select what's going on with the cluster, so there are a few different themes that are available there. So we've got our A, B, and C themes. So let's actually hop over, and I'm going to show you a few different themes as we go. And firstly, so we've got A theme versus B theme versus C theme. So it just kind of changes it out just a little bit, gives you a few different options for customizing it a tiny little bit. Moving back on the inside there, we've got our service interval, so we can indicate when our next service appointment's going to be, and basic content selection for the cluster screen as well. So do we want traffic signs showing up as well? Do we want our blind spot view, I should say, road warnings and things like that? Moving back again, we've also got some climate settings, so we can recirculate the air. We've got our air automatic ventilation as well. So lots of different options when it comes down to it. That's the actual air circulation button. So we'll get to the climate in just a second. We've got our fog and defrost options. Seat, we've got our position alert change, our easy access as well. So it's kind of neat. So as we go to exit the vehicle, we turn it off. It's going to slide the seat backwards in order to be able to get us in and out of the vehicle a little bit easier. And then our rear seat heating control. So we do have the flexibility of turning that heat on or off for that rear row as well. Our lights, so we've got our ambient lighting. We've got our brightness, and we've got a color as well, so that's kind of neat. So we've got a few different lights throughout the vehicle, so it's kind of nice because we can kind of choose whatever color we want to as well. So if you have if you've got a preference, you want to customize your own color, you want to go for your unique color as well, you've got a few different options on which color is actually showing up throughout the vehicle. So that's really, really neat. Moving backwards again, we've got our dimming while driving as well, so that the actual ambient light is not going to show while we're driving the vehicle. So you can turn that one on or off if you'd like it to show all the time or not. And we've got our one-touch turn signal as well, which means that we can select how many times the blinker is going to go. So 3, 5, 7, or off completely. We've got our headlight delay, so as we go to lock the vehicle, do they turn on automatically, or do they turn off automatically, I should say. And then our high beam assist, so we can turn that one on or off if we want to. So the high beam assist, what's going to happen is it's automatically going to turn the high beams on for us. If it recognizes an oncoming vehicle, it's going to start dimming them, turning them off, and then bring them right back to us again. Our door, we've got a few options as well. So we've got our auto lock, our auto unlock as well. 2-button press to unlock. We've got our power liftgate. We can turn that one on or off. We can tweak the sound of the actual liftgate as well on the outside. So if you want it to sound a different way, you can do that. And then we've got our smart liftgate. So the smart liftgate's an interesting one because as you approach the rear of the vehicle with the key fob on, it's automatically going to pop the liftgate out for us, which is kind of neat. Moving into our convenience, we've got our rear occupant alert, which is going to let us know to check the back seat when we turn the vehicle off. Safety measure just to make sure we didn't leave anybody back there. And then we've also got our welcome lighting as well. And we do have a wireless charging pad, so we'll get to that one in just a second. And that's going to be the basics of those general settings there as well for our vehicle. We can move into our navigation, which is going to give us more advanced settings for our navigation system. So we can figure out what's going on with our maps. We've got different options there. Our basic information, so our route guidance, what's actually showing there. Our map scale, so we can adjust what's going on with the scale itself, which again, same thing. It's so cool that we've got so much flexibility. We can set the time there as well. And moving back again, we've got our route guidance. So we've got our interval distance, we've got our voice guidance, so we can mute it out if we want to. We can show the route or we can disable that. We've got our camera alert and a few other things. So previous destinations, user data, GPS information, things like that. Moving into our sound settings. That's where we've got our premium sound, we've got our positioning, so we can adjust this as we'd like to. We've got our sound tuning, so changing out the treble, mid-range, bass. We've got the guidance as well, so driving priority, parking priority, things like that. So if we've got the audio going and we're going to back up, navigate, things like that, is that audio going to lower while these other settings are going on? Yes or no? With our volumes, how high do you want these volumes to be? We can go super high, we can go super low. You've got a lot of flexibility when it comes down to it. The beeping that we're getting there, if that drives you nuts, you can mute that out completely if you really wanted to. Active sound design, that's where we've got a few different sound settings that are available there as well. We've got our basics for device connections, which we've already seen this basic screen there. So we can look at our active connections there, which we've got both vehicles that are, or both phones, I should say, that are currently connected. We can go to delete devices. So we go delete devices, we can select both of them easily, and we can delete, yes, and a few seconds there, 3, 2, 1, and boom, first one's disconnected. And the second one is now disconnected. So it really is that simple, getting rid of phones on this vehicle as well. And moving back another screen, we've got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, which same thing, we can enable, disable, things like that. Moving back, we've got our user profile. And this is where we can set up certain profiles as well. So if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, you can set up a unique profile for every person. We've got our voice recognition as well. Moving into voice recognition, so beginner, normal, or expert. Expert means that we're not going to get as many notifications. So that's really useful because if we're doing something like, let's say, changing a radio station.
Please say a command.
97.7.
Now listening to FM 97.7.
Okay, so it changed the station for us, but when we go to expert, so what's going to happen there is if we change the station, 94.9. Okay, nothing seemingly happened, but if we jump back to the home screen for a second there, as you can see, we have changed to 94.9. So what's going to happen there with the advanced setting, we just won't get as many notifications there. So definitely recommend turning that one on because it's a lot simpler. You don't get as many notifications. We've got our display. So as you can see there, we've got a few different options. So automatic means it's going to flip us between the daytime or the nighttime mode. You can lock it out to permanently be day or night mode. And then you've got the illumination as well. So we can set a few things up there. We've got our blue light filter. This is actually a really, really cool setting as well. So it's going to reduce the eye strain. So it's going to reduce the blue light there as well. So I love the fact that we've got that option. Screensaver, we can turn that one on as well. And with the saver on, is it going to show an analog or a digital clock? With our home screen, we can edit the home icons as well. So we can adjust the look of them, which is kind of neat. So we can select whatever ones we'd like to. The split screen, we can have it set up for whatever ones are showing up there. So we can kind of adjust as we'd like. And then we've got our media change notification. As we're changing different media sources, does that happen, yes or no? We've got our button as well. So our customizable button, we've got a few different ones. So we've got that basic button there. So that's going to be a little bit lower. We'll get to that one in a second. We've got our steering wheel button as well as our mode button as well on the steering wheel. So when we do that mode button, is it going to change out what's going on with our music, etc.? We can select which ones are going to be showing up there. Moving back, we've got our UVO, which UVO means that we've got an app on our phone that we can use to do certain things. So we can remote start the vehicle, we can lock, unlock the doors, we can check on vehicle status, and a number of other things. General settings, a few other options that are available there. So we've got our basics for the actual vehicle itself. We've got our system info. We've got your data there, date and time. So we can change between our GPS time. We can change the actual time, 12 versus 24-hour mode. We can change between English, Spanish, French, or Korean. And we've also got our keyboard. So our basic QWERTY keyboard versus our other modes. Units, we can go either kilometers, miles, Celsius, Fahrenheit, kilometers per liter, liters per 100. We've got our number of different options there as well, so pound feet of torque, etc. Moving into our media options, we've got the option of selecting that, and then we can reset everything. So we can reset it back to our factory defaults instead. And that's going to be the basics of the setup there. Swinging up to the last page, we've got our UVO, our basic notification screen there as well. So UVO is not active, so we unfortunately can't see notifications as of right now. And then we've also got our user manual, which is kind of neat because we've got everything that we need actually built into the vehicle. So we can see what's going on with those warning messages. If you ever get something on the dash and you're not sure what that message is, rather than flipping through the manual, you just look online and then it's going to let you know exactly what's going on. And that's going to be the basics of this UVO media screen. All right, now as we start to move forward, so we are push button start inside of the vehicle, so button press in order to be able to turn auxiliary mode on, and then we have to hit the brake as well as that start stop in order to actually turn on the vehicle. Off to the side there, as you can see, we've got our volume rocker, so we can easily adjust from there if we want to. We can also adjust on our steering wheel if we want to go that route instead. Moving off to the side, we've got a quick button press in order to pull up our map. We've got the basics for our navigation settings as well. We've got our selector switch, so we can figure out what's going on with our personalized button. So we can have our HD radio come on, our UVO, phone projection, and a number of other things. So we've got a button that we can literally choose what's going on with it. We've got our four-way blinkers. We've got a hot button press in order to be able to get to our radio. So again, same thing, that looks so freaking cool. I love it, it's so unique. It's so unique, I love it, and it's just a simple display. We've got our media as well. So media, we can change between AM, FM, Sirius XM, and a number of other things. And then we can jump into our settings, so our basic setup there as well. Button press in order to get rid of it. We've got our tuning rocker there. So this is an interesting way to tune, honestly. Just use the voice command prompt on the steering wheel. So just on the wheel there, we're just gonna press that button in order to be able to change radio stations instead. Moving down a little bit, as you can see there, we've got dual zone climate control, so we can set it differently. So if the driver passenger likes things a little bit colder, a little bit warmer, etc., if you want to bring it back to that driver's default, we just sync it up again, and that's going to set you up to whatever the driver's setting is at. We've got our basics for climate control settings. We can increase or decrease the fan control speed. We can figure out if it's going to our windshield, face, feet, or some sort of a combination of the above. And then we've got some climate settings as well, so we can figure out exactly what's going on with our climate. Moving down a little bit more, we've got a 12-volt power point, we've got a USB, as well as a wireless charging pad. So all we're going to do, literally just slide this thing in, and as you can see there, wireless charging, we are now charging this phone up as we go. So it's a great setup, love the actual system itself that we've got it. One thing that I wish is if this was pushed forward a little bit more, because it's a little bit tight getting your phone in and out there, but still it's nice that we've got that wireless charging capability. Now, as we start to move down a little bit, this is our park button, and then we've got a reverse, neutral, and then our drive mode. Now, this is actually a pretty interesting part of the system because we can't just flip down accidentally in order to change gears. We've actually got to unlock it first by pressing this button, and then we can move into different gears from there. So as we're there, we can actually move in between, so we can go between neutral and drive, but in order to be able to switch into reverse, we can't accidentally just hit it up. We've got to press in order to be able to switch it into reverse as well. In order to put it into park, we're just going to press that P button there, and park is now engaged. It's really that simple. Now, one of the nice things is that as we go into reverse, I want to show you something for a second. So we go into reverse, we've got our backup camera, but the mirrors themselves actually tilt down as we go into reverse. So when we're in reverse, it tilts backwards for us. We've got our reverse sensors that show up on the screen there, so give me a sec. Reverse sensor showing up there, and then we've also got a reverse sensing system that shows up with that full 360 system as well. Now, that 360 system is not going to be standard on every trim level of the vehicle. It is available optionally. But it is kind of neat because we've got a backup view, we've got a different type of backup view, we've got our side view mirror view, and then we can figure out what's going on with those different settings as well. So we've got a ton of different options when it comes down to it. As I mentioned, we've also got that full 360 view as well. So really, really neat from that perspective. And just throw it into park again. We've got our parking brake, we've got our auto hold setting. So the auto hold setting is an interesting one because with the auto hold setting turned on, what's going to happen is if we're in drive and you come to a complete stop, you take your foot off the brake and the car is literally not going to move. So auto hold setting is engaged there, you can see that. Flip it back into park again in order to be able to disengage that auto hold setting. We've got a series of different drive modes as well. So as we move through, so as you can see there, we've got our eco, we've got our smart mode, we've got comfort, sport, and then a customized mode as well. Now, one of the nice things is that as we switch between different modes, it's going to do it not only on the cluster screen, but also on this media screen. So we can move between different modes. It's going to do different things to the sound and the aerodynamics and things like that. And it's kind of neat because you've got some flexibility when it comes down to it. So we can customize the actual mode itself as we go. Moving down a tiny little bit more, we also do have our traction control, so we can turn that system on or off if we'd like to. Down a little bit more, as you can see there, we do have heated and cooled front seats as well. So our heated seat, cool seat, etc., we just kind of move up and down. This is a really neat setup. We've also got our heated steering wheel we can toggle on or off. We've got our camera, so our full 360 cam. So same thing, we can press that button in order to be able to get to the camera. We can go back view, etc. And we're going to press, and then we've also got our engine start stop. So that's one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if we stop for an extended period of time. And then we also do have heated and cooled front seats, so both for the driver and for the passenger side, which I think is so cool. All right, now as we start to move back a little bit, so as you can see there, we've got a little storage tray along the top. And just popping these guys out for a second. So we've got a little storage tray in the middle there as well. There actually aren't any extra USB ports in there, which it would have been kind of nice to see, but it is nice because at the end of the day, we do have a wireless charging pad and then that single port in the front. And then we also do have another USB port in the back as well. As we start to move up overhead, so a few things to point out. If you've got a garage door opener at home, you can easily program that in. We've got an auto-dimming rear view mirror, which means that if a vehicle is behind us and it's bright, it's automatically going to dim this mirror out for us. Moving up overhead, we can call it tow if we need to. We've got an SOS. We can also turn on our cabin lights, so basic controls. We can turn on all of our lights, whether or not they come up. And now this thing does have a sunroof. So we can press that first one in order to be able to open the roof up. And that's going to actually open up the shade there. And then same thing, we're going to button press again in order to be able to open up the whole roof. Look at this. So nice, so nice. And then same idea, we're just going to button press there. So it does actually open it up quite a little bit inside. And that's one of the nice things about these sunroofs, but matter of personal preference, whether or not you've got that roof going or not. And moving up to the side a little bit more. So as you can see, we do have our vanity mirror as well as that light along the top. We've got a little business card holder as well. And we can also pop this thing out and we can slide it just a little bit if we need to block that extra sun. Click it in order to lock it back into place. Well, folks, now time for the fun part. Let's take this thing for a little bit of a spin just to see how it handles as we go. I'm gonna give it a teeny little bit of gas as well, so this is gonna be a good one. All right, now one interesting thing, I'm actually gonna put it into sport mode because I noticed something as I went into sport. Yeah, oh, that is so cool. So when you go into the sport mode, it actually closes the seat in on you a little bit. So it hugs you a little bit more, giving you that little bit more of a sportier performance, or sportier feel, I should say. I think that is so, so neat. Here we go. All right, first kind of impression as I go. 3, 2, here we go. Oh my God, what? Oh, that was amazing. All right, that was a surprising amount of power. A surprising amount. Oh, that was cool. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna do this again. 3, 2. Oh my God, so good. Okay, out of a Kia. What? That is amazing. That is amazing. It's in the sport mode right now, which means naturally it's going to hold the gears a little bit longer as well, so it gives it more of that sportier feel as you go. I haven't even touched the paddle shifters yet, so this is going to be kind of neat as I go. Let's drop it down again. Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. But it's the same, like any paddle shifting car, so amazing. Especially if you're used to that 6-speed. Like if you're, I love that. That blind spot camera, that is so cool. So cool. It's like rather than having to look over and see what's going on next to you, you just flip on that camera and you can actually see what's, oh, that is so neat. So neat. This thing is all-wheel drive. So all-wheel drive is killer in the wintertime. It does affect your performance a little bit because if you were to put this up against, let's say, a Mustang or a Camaro, rear-wheel drive, and those things are a little bit more powerful, but at the same time, this is plenty powerful. And it's all-wheel drive, so you can use this thing comfortably throughout the winter time as well, giving you killer performance not just during the summertime, but also during the winter, so that's kind of neat. The shifter knob is kind of cool. Same, what I find with Kia a lot, the shifters actually, they hug your hand a little bit differently than shifters that I'm used to otherwise. It's a really, really unique feel. I kind of love the feel of the actual shifter itself, and then those paddle shifters. Okay, so I'm gonna turn the adaptive cruise control system on right now as well, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun as we go because I am genuinely curious how this adaptive cruise control system is going to work. Okay, adaptive cruise is on. I'm gonna set it at let's go, what are we, 50 here, okay. So adaptive cruise on, set it at 50. There we go. Yeah, it looks like the car in front of me is going way faster than that, so this is going to do nothing as of right now. But it is nice to know that we've got that adaptive system, which again is that set it and forget it cruise control. You set it at 100 kilometers an hour on the highway, 80 kilometers on a back road, whatever the case may be. Car in front of you slows down, yours is automatically going to brake. If they pick up speed or get out of the way, yours is going to pick right back up to your set speed again. So really, really cool from that perspective. And I love it. Even in the heads-up display, it shows the speed, it shows what you're currently set at as well. That is so nice. And I love the non-obtrusiveness of the actual heads-up display because it kind of pushes it on the windshield itself so you can kind of see what's going on as you're driving. You're still very focused on the road, but you can see what's going on. And this is so cool because it brings out such a huge idea of what's coming with augmented reality and things like that as well. So I'd love to see it where it's like a fully integrated car where the directions are kind of popping up on the screen telling you where to go as well. I think that's going to be a really, really neat feature once we eventually get there. Okay, adaptive cruise is nice, but there's nowhere near enough traffic for me to be able to justify it. Let's go. Oh! So nice. Oh, that's cool. I still can't get over when I go to turn the turn signal on, I get that little pop-up in the middle there and it lets me know what's going on beside me. That is such a cool feature and it's such an underrated feature as well. And like it would be so easy for like every OEM to add this thing in, especially ones where you've got that full 360 camera, because all it is, it's just a view of what's going on beside you. Like Could I turn my head? Yes. I'm blocked a little bit because of the pillar along the side there. But having said that, like having that come up, I think is a great option as well. So cool. And the auto start stop did kick in there, so it killed off power to the engine. It's really up to the car when it decides to do it. Might do it sometimes, may never happen. Really up to the car. This is cool. I've got the adaptive cruise system set up. I've got it set at 80. Car in front of me is going a bit slower, so I'm hugging around 60 right now, which is kind of neat. Oh, that's so cool. And this guy's slowing down, so this car is going to slow down even more. Oh, it's so nice. Okay, lane centering. Same thing. I'm going to turn that one on. Hands off the wheel. Well, hands hugging the wheel, I should say, but it is keeping me in my lane completely. Oh, hold on. Is it? Is it? It is. It is, yeah. That's so cool. So like with the seat set up like all the way down, and it's not even all the way back. Like it can go back further, but at least all the way down, like I've got almost 4 inches of headspace up overhead, like 3-4 inches of headspace. So tons of space up overhead, even with that sunroof. And like the interior fibers of this are so nice. Like leather along the driver's side door. We've got like a full look along the side there as well, just above that seat memory button. And then it's like a suede along the top also. So that suede is kind of like, it's a neat feel. That's neat. All right, so it's got speed sign recognition as well. So if you go a teeny little bit faster than what the posted, like even like 1 kilometer an hour, 1 mile per hour faster than the posted speed limit, it actually shows up on the screen and lets you know that you're going a little bit fast. On the heads-up display, I should say. So it goes red, letting you know that you're going faster than the posted speed limit. That is really neat. Such a small feature. Such a neat one at the same time. Okay, lane keeping system is turned on right now, so I'm gonna veer over. What's it gonna do? Okay, I don't know if you heard that beep or not, but it beeped at me and then it kind of gave me a little bit of a nudge back into my lane again. I've got the adaptive system set up again. I'm gonna keep that one turned on with max distance because I'm coming up to a stoplight right now. So hypothetically, this thing should brake for me. I'm gonna ride the brake right now just to make sure. Oh, is it stopping? Oh yeah, that is responsive. Oh, that's cool. Is it gonna bring me to a complete stop though? That is the question. Will it? Come on. Yes. 100% down to a complete stop. That is so cool. There's not every car that's got the adaptive cruise control has the stop and go feature where it legitimately brings you down. Okay, so it's something on the screen now. Something just popped up on the instrument cluster screen. I need to use the switch or pedal to be able to accelerate again. So I'm guessing that means that once I hit green again, it's not going to automatically launch me again. I've got to either hit the gas to resume or I've got to just push the, yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Okay. So super straightforward from that perspective. It doesn't pick you back up to speed quite as quickly as I would have liked, but it picks you back up to speed though, which is nice. So, so neat. So cool. Well, folks, that was an in-depth look at the 2022 Kia Stinger. What did you think? I was absolutely surprised at this thing. If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and until I see you next time, make sure you stay safe.